DeFazio for 5 minutes. Mr. DeFazio for 5 minutes.
This is a photograph from 1956, before we had a national transportation policy in the United States of America. And if the Republicans are successful with their budget and with their vision, this will be the future for the United States of America. There's a substantial number of Republicans on that side who've drunk the Kool-Aid of a guy named Grover Norquist, who says he wants government so small he can strangle it in the bathtub. And we should devolve, this is interesting, not evolve, devolve transportation to the states. That's right, our national transportation policy will be set by the 50 different states. Well, this is 1956, before we had a national transportation policy. This is the brand spanking new Kansas Turnpike. Isn't that beautiful? Well, look where it ends, in a farmer's field in Oklahoma, because Oklahoma chose not to build its section, which they had promised to build. That's the way things used to be, and that's the way they want things to be again. We're now on the precipice of basically walking away from investment in our nation's infrastructure. 150,000 bridges need replacement or repair in the national system. 40% of the pavement needs total replacement, not just an overlay. We have a $70 billion backlog in our 19th and 20th century transportation systems in our major urban areas, in our transit. And that's not even talking about building an efficient 21st century transportation system to deliver people and goods more efficiently. And what's their proposal? 31% cut in an already inadequate budget, or maybe no money at all. Actually, it's a bit odd. Mr. Ryan's budget, according to the Congressional Budget Office, would not be enough to fund the uncontrollable outlays, i.e., projects already underway by the states for which the federal government has contracted to reimburse at the end of the construction of these projects. His budget wouldn't even meet that number. And in terms of authorizing the bill, they decided for the first time in history to make this a partisan issue. Dwight David Eisenhower, Republican president, he came up with the idea of a national transportation network. Ronald Reagan put transit into the Highway Trust Fund. They want to take out Ronald Reagan's step of putting transit in the Highway Trust Fund as an interim step before they do away with the program altogether. That's pretty extraordinary stuff. Their vision is that we will go back to this state of affairs in America. We cannot afford that. Next week, or the week after, the highway funding, temporary highway funding, expires. The Senate has passed a bipartisan bill by an overwhelming majority. The Republican leadership has threatened their right-wing devolutionists do away with federal transportation by saying, we might make you vote on that Senate bill. That passes for a threat in the Republican caucus. We might make you vote on a good bill that would continue the current system with some improvements for a couple of years. That's a threat. That's what passes for a threat. Unless you vote for our crazy H.R. 7, which does away with transit funding and basically dismantles the program over a longer term, or the Ryan budget, which would immediately end the program next year. But they won't let us vote on that because they know a bunch of Democrats, just like in the Senate where Democrats and Republicans came together with an overwhelming majority and passed a transportation bill. They know that would happen here. So they got 80 or so, ultra right-wingers who wouldn't vote for it. Big deal. I can match that with 150 Democrats, and we could have a bipartisan bill next week, putting millions of Americans back to work, rebuilding the crumbling infrastructure in this country. But instead, they want to devolve us back to a future. Smaller government. Smaller government. Yeah, that's great, guys. A transportation policy for the United States of America competing in a world economy set by the 50 states without funding. What a great vision.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Washington, Ms.